comments.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to introduce the report. The result is for the full year to 30 June 22 is in keeping with previous years and with the SOI targets. The half-year report will be coming at a later stage, and at that point Gil and his team would look at doing a broader presentation. And at the moment, everything looks relatively straightforward, and we thought we would just take questions if you're happy to take it as read.
Does anyone have any questions? Sarah? Might have more time than we thought.
Yeah, thanks. Just some questions around, there's a tension in Transwaste's business model in that it's to return a dividend to shareholders and increase the amount of electricity sold, for example, through the gases and those kind of things. Transwaste needs more waste. And so I notice in the cover report and then and through the annual report that Transwaste acknowledges that it doesn't have any responsibility for the waste created by people and then sent to landfill. However, it's that Transwaste is making money from. And if the goal of the city and other councils nearby is to reduce our emissions, then there's a tension in Transwaste. And I'm wondering how that's resolved, because it seems to me like you would like more waste so you can make more money and make more electricity, and yet we're all hoping to reduce waste. And it seems like there's a discomfort from Transwaste in taking responsibility for the waste that arrives and no incentive to try and encourage people to send less.
Do I press that?
Oh, that's on already.
Oh, okay, it's on. Look, thanks very much, Sarah, for raising that. It's interesting because if you go right back to the founding documents of Transwaste, the MOU, it actually has a responsibility on Transwaste to be involved in reduction of waste to landfill.
Yeah.
I think we do that. We try and find every opportunity, but that, as I say, our problem is we can't dictate who generates the waste. We can work with them at times, and I think through I'll call it the larger solid waste management system, there are opportunities there that I think Transwaste would welcome to be involved in waste minimisation. I mean, a good example, for instance, some years ago we got a request to accept potentially, I'll stress that word, contaminated soils. Now, really, we don't want to accept that because we've got a highly engineered landfill that's made for taking hazardous waste of various sorts. Soils could go in a non-hazardous landfill, if you like, and be quite safe. But because there was the potential for contamination, it was largely around asbestos. Because there was potential, all of that came to Transwaste. It doesn't really fit comfortably in our landfill. We'll take it, but it doesn't fit comfortably. I think we are very keen to ensure too, the other aspect of that is that a lot of the waste that goes in there decomposes. When it decomposes, it creates two things. It creates gas and it creates leachate. When it creates the gas, we want to extract the methane and use it. And we do that through electricity. So we think we're probably one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient landfill in New Zealand at extracting gas. Yep. We work really hard at that. Our aim is to be able to capture 100% of it. We have to capture 90%, but we aim to try and capture 100%. And we get close to that. We don't always hit 100%, but we're in the high 90s, unless something's gone, wrong that needs fixing, or we're managing a certain part of the landfill because we've had to shut gas wells down. That's something we try very hard to do. One of the issues then is saying, well, what do you do with the rest of the gas? Because the methane's only about 50-odd% of it. It's largely CO2, and that goes up the spout of either the exhaust from the generators or the flare. That methane was going to be, that CO2 was going to be released anyway, because that stuff was going to decompose somewhere. I think one of our challenges in the future, how can we use that? How can we commercialise that? at the same time as how can we make the best possible use of that byproduct we produce called landfill gas, the methane element, and we do that.
Yeah.
And in terms of leachate, well, that's just something we have to manage, and we're looking at a new process for doing that at the moment.
No, I agree, and you're doing good work in that whole how you manage things once they're there. I think it was just a little bit around the messaging, which looked like a little bit of a, we're not really responsible for it, rather than a focus on, listen, we recognise that waste is a problem, and we're actively working with others on programs to reduce what's coming in. There's just a messaging.
Okay, no, I think we'll pick that up. That's a good point, because if that's the messaging that's being picked up, it's not the messaging that we want or intend.
And it's not what councils are expecting from Transwaste. Thanks.
Yep, fair enough.
Thanks, Sarah. Yanni?
Sorry, I'm just mindful of time. I was happy to move it and just wanted to speak very briefly in the debate.
Okay, thanks. All right, any other questions? Nope. All right, have we got a seconder? Mark, sorry, it's who I saw first. Great, so we're all moving to debate. So Yanni.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Look, I'm happy to support receiving this report. I think we're very fortunate for the good work that Transwaste does, and if anyone wants to be critical of why we're seeing more waste going to landfill, it's actually when we brought in the 3-bin system. So having a red bin actually makes it easier for people to dispose of their rubbish to landfill, but people really love that service. But we should be looking at our own waste minimisation strategies if we're concerned about the amount of waste going to landfill and what we can do. So I think we have to take some responsibility in that regard, because the evidence was clear at the time that we agreed to go to the 3-bin system, that it may not reduce the waste to landfill, but actually it was a more convenient system that people would use. So, I know we're currently consulting on a number of issues around that at the moment, and if people want to make comments, I think that's probably the best time to do it, rather than to attack Transwaste. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, in response really to that, in that I wasn't attacking Transwaste. It was a recognition that there's a tension in their business model, and that councils are expecting one thing. There is no one silver bullet for waste. Yes, councils can be doing things with our red bin system, but actually much of what goes to County Valley is not from the residential collection at the curbside anyway. Thanks.
No, I just wanted to
If I could just pick up on that.
No, we're in debate. You don't want to join the debate. I was just going to say thanks for the report, and what was the other thing I was going to say? That councillors are going to come on a tour, and if you haven't been out to Coat Valley, you should go, because it is absolutely brilliant when we get to go and visit there. So councillors should take the opportunity. Yeah. Don't mention that. All right, so we've got mover and seconder. All those no more debate. No, all those in favour say aye. Against, carry. Great, thank you. So I guess we will take an early lunch break now, and we'll do the surf when we come back, and then PX probably at the end of the day. Sorry? Do you reckon it'll take 10 minutes?
We're not doing, we're not doing the capital endowment because Gary's not available.
That's at 2.
That's why we've moved. Otherwise we would have, but Gary's not available because he's doing an interview. So we are going to do that after lunch as well.
Yep.
Okay. So there's
2 plus PX.
Plus PX.